This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. I have to cover this story that aired on CBS Saturday morning with Bill Gates during Climate Watch. It is almost too surreal to witness what we're witnessing because it shows you how dumbed down society is. Bill Gates gets rolled out again, right? No self-awareness. Bill Gates wants to be the face of this because he hates humanity so much so. And the other people out there have no self-awareness about why is Bill involved in the climate, then Bill is involved in the magic potions, and then Bill is involved in technology. Because if you connect the dots, you start to realize that getting technology inside of your body ultimately leads to all these other things that they're going to enslave you with, which is the carbon footprint, which is tracking and monitoring your every movement, right? So Bill Gates is on national television, okay? And he's openly talking about his carbon removal company, which is open for business, and how we need, by using graphite, ladies and gentlemen, graphite, the same thing that they're trying to get in people's body could become the world's largest carbon removal facility called graphite. Go figure, right? And what he's trying to do, and I've covered this before, but this is the first time they're actually rolling Billy out on the national news to talk about his carbon removal company, and you watch the feedback, and people are like, this is a great idea, right? And I'm just wondering if anybody understands that what Bill Gates is saying in the clip I'm about to play for you is that his company wants to remove carbon dioxide from the air and put it underground. Now, they pretend that they're putting it underground and it's just going to dissolve underground, but they're actually putting it underground because they're planning on living underground. All these shows you see like Fallout, video games, movies, etc., all based on the fact that they're going to be underground while they destroy the Earth's surface. And one of the ways you could destroy the Earth's surface is exactly what Bill's talking about, by removing carbon dioxide from the air. But people are so dumb. They don't even realize that without carbon dioxide, human beings wouldn't be able to breathe. So thus, we should all probably say, do we need to be removing carbon dioxide from the air? Well, the answer would be no. And who's given authority to these people to remove carbon dioxide from the air that we all need to breathe? And everybody with common sense would also say, well, if this whole thing was true about carbon emissions and carbon dioxide, all we should need to do is plant trees because that's how photosynthesis works. But nobody's asking questions and no one's using common sense. And when you hear common sense like I'm explaining to you, they've already trained the real dumb people who are empowered to think that they're smart and understand what's happening to have a reason, or I should say an explanation as to why common sense shouldn't make sense, right? Like there's good carbon dioxide, good carbon. I mean, they just continue to repeat all the stuff they hear from that magical box that appears in their living room or in their bedroom or on their phone that they get their media from, right? But here's Bill Gates, right? And keep in mind the company one of the companies that he's showing you here is called Infinium, that uses the infinity sign, which is a New World Order Illuminati symbol, which means infinite, because this is an occult symbology that they're constantly rebuilding and there's constant rebirth and the phoenix rising. They all have this similar meaning to it, right? They're going to destroy everything and be reborn, the phoenix rising from the ashes. So it's not a coincidence that that's one of the companies that he's showing you here. But it's absolutely incredible as he sits there and talks about sucking out carbon dioxide out of the air, and nobody's connecting the dots as to how they're literally planning on suffocating humanity and taking that carbon dioxide and pushing it underground where they plan on living. How do people think they plan on living and growing stuff underground without carbon dioxide? Well, this is how.
Earth Day is Monday, and this morning, we're looking at potential solutions to the climate crisis. New government data out this month shows that planet-warming greenhouse gas emissions continue to climb. The Earth's atmosphere now contains more carbon dioxide than it has at any point in at least 4.3 million years. Senior national and environmental correspondent Ben Tracy recently met up with former Microsoft CEO Bill Gates, who's helping fund innovative climate technologies. Ben with us, a rare visit in studio. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, guys. To avoid the worst impacts of climate change, scientists say we need to bring those planet-warming emissions down to zero and do it by the middle of this century. Now, Bill Gates doesn't think that's going to happen by all of us suddenly giving up airplane flights or our cars or becoming vegetarians. He thinks we need to leverage technology and innovation to rapidly lower emissions.
One of those big plants will be built here on the largest cattle ranch in Texas. It will be a direct air capture facility, which sucks in planet-warming carbon dioxide and buries it underground.
This term, direct air capture, means that they're just pulling it out of the air.
This facility in Iceland is currently the world's largest operating plant, removing about 4,000 tons a year, not even a drop in the CO2 bucket. But a new one being built in West Texas called Stratos is expected to remove 500,000 tons per year.
This is really the hub of CO2 enhanced oil recovery.
And the one here on the ranch could eventually capture 1 million tons. They are being developed by oil and gas giant Occidental, which plans to build 100 of them with the help of federal tax credits.
Carbon capture won't solve the entire problem. It's part of our arsenal of tools.
Gates says the oil and gas industry can be part of the solution if they use their expertise to reduce emissions. He personally pays carbon capture companies $9 million a year to offset his own pollution, a perk of being one of the richest people on the planet.
I have a plane, I have a huge carbon footprint.
He knows most people can't afford to do that, which is why he believes technology and American innovation is the key to combating the climate crisis.
Some of these things will not succeed, and that's why it's great to have multiple technologies that are showing promise.
One thing does not solve the problem here, because I was saying, what do you do with that carbon underneath? So then you're going to produce more oil, but that's part of the problem here.
Yeah, so some of the technology will be used to sequester carbon forever. It goes into rock formations in the ground. It can never heat the planet again. That's good. If you're going to use it to pump more oil, that's very questionable because you're not really solving the problem because those emissions will get burned out of an airplane or a tailpipe at some point.
It's a combination of things. It's relying on the technology to adapt to it, which I think we sometimes underestimate how we can fix it with new technology, but also reducing emissions now.
Yeah, none of these things are silver bullets. We need a lot of different things. Al Gore once said to us, it's silver buckshot. It's not a silver bullet.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a lot of different technologies to figure out.
So, Bill, it's incredible. It's incredible that we're talking about this, right? Nobody in no time period would ever have allowed people like this to experiment in this way, openly. When they're talking about something that affects everybody's life. Who has authority over this? So they have the authority not only to remove carbon from the air, but they clearly have the authority to dump chemicals on us from the sky, too, right? They just take the authority and tell you it's in the name of science, right? And technology, because they expect you to look at it and say, well, I don't understand. I'm too dumb to ask any questions about it. Kind of like the experiment they ran a few years ago. They didn't expect you to ask any questions. Now, because of people like me and you, more and more people did start to ask questions because they realized what this Internet of Bodies is all about. And they actually were starting to see some of their friends hook up to Bluetooth. So then they said, this is a little bit weird. What is this? Let me research it more. And they didn't expect the response that they got. But with this, they're not going to get the response because people are too dumb to realize this stuff. When they hear the stuff about the carbon, it bores people. Okay? I know people listen to my channel. They don't want to watch the stuff about the carbon footprint because it's boring. They're like, green energy, all this stuff is stupid. It's about money. That's the easy dismissal, right? That's what the alt-right media will tell you. They'll be like, they're climate cult. They're just kind of crazy and kooky. They don't tell the audience out there what they're doing is enslaving you. They prepped you with all this technology that tracks your movements, the Fitbit, etc., tracking your calories. This stuff has all been conditioning for the carbon footprint. And people are just automatically going to go on board without even questioning the fact that they're sucking the carbon out. That you literally, if you look up the definition of human beings, what they need to survive, can humans breathe without carbon dioxide? This is an important fact to remember, as carbon dioxide is a vital part of the environment. The human breathing mechanism actually revolves around CO2, not oxygen. Without carbon dioxide, humans wouldn't be able to breathe. It's only when CO2 gets concentrated so they'll tell you, it's concentrated CO2 because they don't expect you to ask any questions. And they don't expect you to say, could we plant trees to solve this problem? Because that's the way that it's always worked, right? They expect you to think there's so many factories and so much smoke that that's what the problem is, of course, going on in the world. And what we need to do to resolve it is remove it from the air. And don't be suspicious when Bill Gates tells you that he wants to put it underground, right? Again, without carbon dioxide, the Earth's natural greenhouse effect would be too weak to keep the average global surface temperature above freezing. So then we can start thinking about how they're trying to freeze the earth, because we need to cool the earth, right? Because global warming. And we've seen all the predictive programming with all those movies about freezing the earth, right? But don't think about that, because that's too far down the line. Just let Bill and company take your tax money to build these giant vacuums. Don't ask where the carbon goes, because maybe people out there are just like, carbon dioxide is just the smoke that comes out of pipes, right? Oh yeah, they must suck it up and, they're just going to put it in a well somewhere because nobody needs it. It's bad. They don't even realize what they're talking about is carbon dioxide that we need to survive, to breathe. And they're taking and putting it underground. Then you start going, well, wait a minute. Don't they build a lot of cities underground? There's Emerald City and over by DC and the Ozarks, right? Everybody's heard about these things. But they don't want to believe it's actually going on. But you actually research and see our entire country has a underground highway system, et cetera. And this is, of course, where all the missing ones go. But they won't get into that either. So when we look at all that, you go, well, wait a minute. Well, okay, so they're underground. How are they breathing underground? Well, they're going to need a lot of carbon dioxide underground if they're going to plant. Okay, they plan on growing food. They still are going to eat food and all this other stuff and meat. Okay, they're bringing it all underground. And their plan is to nuke and destroy the Earth's surface. And I don't mean nuke with a bomb. I mean nuke it by sucking out carbon out of the air and burning trees. Why do you think we saw all that go up in Canada, where there's lighting trees on fire, lighting forests? There's just causing forest fires all around because they want to eliminate the trees so that when they start sucking out more and more carbon dioxide, we'll suffocate. That's the ultimate goal. And can't you look at Bill Gates and say to yourself, yeah, I remember when we smashed the pie in Billy's face. Bill really hates humans, right? Well, what better way to go get back at humans than to suffocate them? But nobody out there thinks that these guys in bow ties walking around with all the money are, these wealthy psychopaths. But almost every movie and TV show that these people watch, the villain is always the wealthy billionaire tech guy, et cetera, right? From James Bond on, they look exactly like Bill Gates, right? They look exactly like Jeff Bezos, right? But nobody will believe it. And that's how mind control works. They've been desensitized. They don't even realize that they've been conditioned through films to see that this is actually what is going on. But they're so dumbed down that they can't even see it for themselves, because these people come on TV and they just speak a certain way, a monotone, and they care, and this and that. Then they hear people like me talk, and they're like, oh, I can't listen to that guy. He's angry all the time. He's yelling and screaming. I need somebody. Oh, Bill sounds like he knows what he's talking about. And why does he sound like he knows what he's talking about? Because you don't know what he's talking about? You don't know basic photosynthesis? You don't know how from the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way to now, they've gone back and forth, the same propaganda, magazine covers, global warming, global cooling, global this, global climate. But why has it never happened till now? Because they haven't had the technology in place to completely mind control you until now. They haven't had the technology in place and you conditioned enough to accept the carbon footprint, which again is the same as being a prisoner. You're not gonna be able to go anywhere. You're not gonna be able to move. You ain't gonna be able to buy stuff. It's incredible that people don't see it, but it'll be too late when it happens. And when it happens, they'll still smile at you and say that it's a conspiracy, what people like me are saying. They'll be like, don't listen to that guy. Don't listen that you can only have your air on for 2 hours a day. It has nothing to do with us wanting to do this to you. It's because of the climate. And then everyone will go, yeah, it's because of the climate. It's not because they're mean people. And they'll just smile while these people are smiling right at them while murdering them and turning them into slaves, right? So graphite is the company, which is ironic, right? Like I said earlier, which Bill Gates' carbon removal company, Graphite, Graphyte, right? And if you take that word and you just turn it to graphene and then you put the word oxide after it, all that black goo we've always talked about, isn't it very interesting that that's the name? It's not interesting at all. It's right in our faces. That Bill would even call the company Graphite, a carbon removal startup, which is backed by Gates, which is set to kick off its operations, or it did kick off the operations here in 2024. And the job of what they're trying to do, suck carbon out of the atmosphere by the end of 2024, right? That's the goal. 15,000 metric tons of CO2 from the atmosphere by the end of 2024. And interestingly enough, some of the stuff you saw in those clips, Texas, right, conservative state, suffocate them out, right? Suffocate them out. I mean, Graphite claims its innovation will allow for the removal of carbon at the cost of about $100 per ton. Carbon, and you're going to fund it, by the way. Carbon removal via direct air capture, by contrast, can cost anywhere from $600 to $1,000, according to the World Economic Forum. The startup predicts its method will keep captured carbon out of the atmosphere for more than 1,000 years, right? And nobody's worried about how they're going to breathe. It's absolutely incredible. It's incredible if we think about it. It really, truly is how dumbed down humanity has become. They're telling you this out in the open, they want to remove it. And people are so stupid in today's world, they don't even realize that we need CO2. They didn't realize it. They don't realize that we would suffocate. I mean, how many times do I need to emphasize that? These people, these rich people who complain about carbon emissions, who fly around in their jets and say, well, we're allowed to because we're trying to help the world. So we apologize. And then, of course, they tell you, like in that clip, that Bill Gates has given all his money back to charities to make up for his carbon footprint. And all these suckers believe it, right? Because they just don't grasp what's happening. But if the television told them that these people were mass murderers like Jeffrey Dahmer, then all of a sudden everybody out there would be like, we need to stop them. They're horrible people. But as long as the TV says that they're nice people, they're philanthropists, they care, which is all basic secret society mumbo jumbo that they've all been trained to talk about, how they always give money so that you can't question them because they seem so nice, right? So they're telling you all this stuff, how that we need to live. They don't follow suit, but instead, Bill Gates is going to make up for his carbon footprint by sucking out all the carbon out of the air so we could all suffocate. Does that make sense to you? It's absolutely incredible. Welcome to 2024, when the open discussion in Congress isn't about carbon vacuums. It's about if men can have babies or not and how we should work pronouns into our military, while we have people who are unelected, sucking carbon out of the air, not telling you why, telling you they're going to put it underground, and you're supposed to just go, well, thanks, Bill. We appreciate it. Thanks for the suffocation. Can I have another? It's absolutely unbelievable. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Graphite, can you make it up? Nope, you can't. Thanks again, everybody. God bless all of you and your families, as always.